Hey there YouTubes, Chris Holman here. A little change of pace here in this video. So it is, well, now it's actually Friday, barely Friday, April 6th. It's 12 after 12 a.m. So I didn't get a vlog out for Thursday. Just one of those days, but so this is kind of for Thursday and Friday kind of rolled in one. So now this isn't going to be nothing about what's going on in the news. This is going to be a society thing here. So something I want to talk about, and I really wish this was not something I felt that I had to talk about. But in society today, there seems to be how can I put this? I guess a dysfunction in how people view relationships and marriage and how they enter into those relationships. And there's many factors into that. So, I mean, we've seen basically just the crumbling of the American family, the expulsion of fathers from the home, replaced by the state, and this is in really every community to various degrees. And so our young people, even people my age and even a little older, they don't know what a healthy relationship is. They don't know what a healthy marriage is, and many even will say that, well, what's the point of marriage? It's just a certificate, and that is comes from a absolute ignorance of what actually marriage is. It's a lot more than that. I mean, but in society where you got people who are not married who cohabitate, you can see where that mentality can come from, right? So if you cohabitate, getting married, you absolutely can see, if you know, without having that moral, religious or faith conviction of what, the sanctity of marriage and the sacrament of marriage, you can see, well, if I get married, there's a marriage certificate that I sign, that it doesn't actually change anything in my life. Nothing changes. We're already living together. We might already have children, whatever. Nothing really changes other than how you file taxes. So I see where that's coming from, but the reason that is there is because people just don't know what marriage is. A lot of our problems in society stem specifically from this, right? So you have issues of unwanted pregnancies, and that causes, leads to even a generational cycle of poverty. That creates all of the, men who don't know how to be men, young girls who grow up to be women with daddy issues, who don't know what to expect from a future, partner or spouse. They don't know what to expect because they never had that healthy example. To kind of break this down, these problems here with these unwanted pregnancies, another problem, of course, that brings up is then it creates a desire for some type of solution to these unwanted pregnancies. And for many, that solution is an abortion. For others is more preventative measures with that, contraceptives, right? Whether that be birth control pills or condoms. But the behavior, and irresponsibility is still there. And when the birth control fails, and if not properly taken, it can, then you have the unwanted pregnancy, and then what do? We have issues with men. Let's kind of gear towards men. The issues that these this causes, right? For men growing up without a father or growing up with stepfathers. And now here's a statistic people need to know is that stepfathers, and I'm not saying all stepfathers are this way. My stepfather was. But stepfathers are statistically dramatically have a higher likelihood of abusing the children in the home than a biological father. That's just statistics. I believe it was that statistic came from a government agency. I want to say it was the Department of Justice, but I could be wrong. I'll see if I can find that statistic and put it in here. But anyway, it is dramatically higher. But that isn't to say all stepfathers are that way. There are stepfathers out there who step up and do the right thing, and they're more of a father than the biological father is. But nonetheless, this leads to issues of having, well, stepfathers. Boys who grow up without a father are statistically much more likely to get involved in drugs and gangs, criminal activity, to be emotionally unstable. They are much less likely to have a firm grasp of what it actually is to, really be a man, right? And to take responsibility in your life and for your actions. And so we see this generation of soy boys that are, they're all just man children. They're grown children. That's all they are. They sit at home, they play video games, they're eating junk food, they have no drive in their life, they're living in their mother's parents' basement. I mean, millennials, the percentage of millennials, we're talking in their 20s and even early 30s, still living in with their parents. Man, there's something wrong there, right? And there's more. There's a larger dynamic in play, but the loss of fathers in the home is absolutely a contributing factor here. I'd say a major one. So now, how does this get into relationships? So, I've heard my grandmother say this, in fact, just rather recently, and you'll actually hear this a lot in the South, is that, hey, you want to know how to keep from having an unwanted pregnancy? Put an aspirin between your knees, right? That's what would be kind of crudely said to young girls. And what that really alludes to is abstinence, right? With abstinence, before marriage, there's zero chance of an unwanted pregnancy. There's a zero chance of being forced into a relationship you otherwise wouldn't be in because of a pregnancy. There's a zero chance that you're going to end up in this generational cycle of poverty. But another interesting thing that I think a lot of people seem to miss is that there is two factors in play in the beginning of a relationship. And so you've got lust on one hand and you have love on the other. You've got physical attraction and you've got compatibility, right? Now, a relationship built on physical attraction and sexual intimacy will fail. If that's what it's built upon, it will fail. Whether you get married or not, it will fail. Anyone who's been married for any amount of time, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, anyone who's been married for any amount of time can tell you that honeymoon period, that intense passion fades over time. And beauty fades and physical attraction fades. And it gets to a point where, that is less important in the relationship. Well, if that is all the relationship is, what do you have left? So it is important that you begin a relationship not on, this sexual intimacy, this, sexual intercourse. It's important that you abstain and you get to know each other, and that you are compatible in ways, shared values, shared goals in life, shared or similar interests. Even faith is a shared faith is important to have. Even politics, and this is even more important today, I think, because of how just politically divided we are as a people. And I've seen this where, you've got people on both the right and the left, and they're like, hey, if you're a liberal, I'm not interested. Or if if you voted to put that abomination in the White House, I'm not interested. That's what they would say. With that stated clearly, that it's important to build a foundation built on compatibility and love instead of lust and physical attraction. If we begin to do that and abstain, sexual intimacy should not be something that is just randomly thrown in there. There's no such thing as emotionless sex. As much as people want to say that there is, there really isn't. Both men and women, when that happens, there is a emotional bond that is formed. It may not be a strong bond, but there is a bond, and that can cloud one's ability to discern whether that person is truly a right match or not for you. Now, I will point out that there is another aspect to consider as well for those of us who are Christians, who have a faith, is seeking after God's will in our life. And, if you believe that there is God's match for you, there's your rib that is out there, that is another aspect to take into account as well. So then once this foundation is established, and I want to make this perfectly clear, that whether it is a courtship, whether you're dating, once you're married, relationships are hard work, and the moment you stop trying or stop putting forth an effort to make it work, it won't work. You don't, if you get married, anybody watching this, you're getting ready to get married, listen to me. Listen to me very closely. Do not ever take that person for granted. Make them feel loved and appreciated always, and never stop making them feel loved, appreciated, wanted, desired. Never stop putting forth that effort. Do not take them for granted that they'll always be there. There's many, many different things that can happen in life that can rob you of your spouse. So never take that person's for granted that person's going to be there. But as that foundation is formed and a relationship begins, know this, that there is also a difference between loving someone and being in love with someone, right? So if you love someone, this is how I like to put it. If you love someone, you love them for what you see on the surface, right? I love you, right? So I love who you are and what you represent. That is love. But to be in love with someone is to intimately love them for not just their good traits, but for their faults as well. When you're in love with someone, you love them for who they are, inside and out, the good, the bad, everything, right? when you love them when they wake up in the morning and their hair's a mess and they're all groggy and they're like, don't talk to me until I get my coffee, right? Like that. If you can look at whoever that is, whether that's your husband or your wife, and in that moment, and even when they're just like grumpy, and you still look at them and you say, man, I really, really love you. You're in love with that person. That's not love. It's not infatuation. It's not just a physical attraction. You are in love with that person. Now, it is possible to fall out of love. And that was my experience in my marriage that ended. So you'll have to excuse my dog. I'm on the couch and she wants some attention. So you can fall out of love in a relationship, and that is what happens when one or both people in the relationship stop trying to make it work, right? When you stop trying, that's what's going to happen. You start getting comfortable and everything becomes routine. One of the first things that goes is, intimacy. It may start as, in the bedroom, right? And then it goes to spending time together or holding hands or next thing you know, you're less than roommates. And if you let it get to that point, it is very difficult, if not outright impossible, to fix. And that's why it is so important to keep a relationship going. And then one other point, and this goes to both men and women, but I'm really aiming this at men, is that the importance of fidelity to your spouse, faithfulness, right? So we saw in the news previously, was it earlier this year, or maybe it was last year? I can't exactly remember when it was, but the media just really crucified Vice President Mike Pence because of a statement he made about how he would not go to dinner alone with a woman not his wife. Now, I understand the principle. That's because he's faithful to his wife and he's respectful to his wife, and he's not going to allow himself to be in any situation that could be even perceived to be improper. And that's how I conducted myself the entire time I was married, for 13 years. I was never even alone in a room with another woman who wasn't a cousin, my mother, grandmother, someone who was related to me. I never allowed myself to be in that situation. I did not want my now ex-wife, then wife, to ever question whether I was loyal and faithful to her. I never wanted to be accused by her or anyone else of doing anything improper. But there's another reason to do this that is a little bit selfish. You see, we as human beings, men and women, it is very difficult for us to control sometimes who we begin to develop feelings for. And you're opening the door for those types of feelings to develop with someone who is not your spouse. And then you start getting into other problems we see in society, which also causes unwanted pregnancies and whatnot, is affairs. That can lead to affairs. It's not just the perception of impropriety. It can lead to impropriety. And to be faithful as men, we need to ensure that our conduct is proper. And that's why I believe it's not only important to abstain from sex before marriage, but then once you are married, to not even allow yourself to be in any way in a situation where something like that could be developed or be perceived to have been, to have developed. Look, man, sometimes the heart wants what the heart wants, and it may not in any way be moral. It may not in any way be right, and it may not in any way be what's in your best interest. And if you're married and you have a family and you have children, consider this, what a divorce does to your children. Consider it. Some people think, oh, well, the divorce, it won't really affect them. I'm going to tell you it does. I'm going to tell you it does. And it will not only affect them as a child, it will affect them into adulthood. And they will struggle with fidelity in their own relationships. They're likely to not in any way value monogamy or the institution of marriage, the sacrament of marriage. They're much less likely to in any way view that in a healthy way. And so this is what's good for your life. This is what's good for your family. But it's also what's good for society. So all of this, not only will it, if you just do this, do not have sex before marriage, and when you are married, right? Well, don't have sex before marriage and build the relationship on a foundation of a real foundation. Shared goals, values, interests, faith. Learn to love the person for who they are, not for just a physical attraction. Though having a physical attraction is important. And then once you are married, being faithful to your spouse and to your family. Not only will that bring you success and happiness in life, it will also help to maintain a healthy society. Your community that you live in, and the nation as a whole. That's why you often hear conservatives and people who, like myself, who value traditional values, how we look at this and we say, all the problems in society are a direct result of the breakdown of the family, and of morality and the chastity of women and faithfulness of men. There's a reason why we say this, because we see what happens when those values are discarded, and we see the direct causation, not just correlation, but causation between the rejection of God and family and faithfulness, chastity, all of that, a complete rejection of that, and this embrace of instant fulfillment of our desires and needs, how that has a direct causation to all of the problems we're seeing in society today. I don't believe that we are wrong. I don't in any way believe that we are wrong with this. I don't know that there's really any way that we can completely fix society. And that's okay. But we can try. But you can't change other people, you can only change yourself. If you're young or old, if you're my age, in your 30s, early 40s, and you're looking to get married, or you're about to get married, stop and think, what foundation was this relationship built upon? Was it built on the physical attraction and physical intimacy? Or was it built on compatibility? Do you love this person, or are you in love? with this person? Do you know them well enough to know their faults, to even know that, yes, in fact, I know that I'm in love with this person because I love them for, all of their many faults, everything that they do that in life, good and bad, I'm in love with this person. As a man, when you're with a woman that you're in love with, it makes you want to be a better man. So ask yourself, does this woman make me want to be a better man? If your answers to all of those questions are, yes, I love her for who she is, good and bad. She makes me want to be a better man. This relationship is built on a foundation of love and trust and compatibility, and not this physical attraction and physical intimacy. If you answer yes to all of that, then my advice then would be that you have found a compatible spouse. There are other things to consider as well. There are red flags and personality conflicts. So there needs to be a compatibility with personality. There's things to consider as well, but that's a topic for another day. This is a really long video for a vlog. This topic probably should have been covered in one of my weekly videos, but I thought I would just cover it here. Once you say I do, the work in the relationship doesn't stop. It ramps up. It takes even more work. You need to be able to not only make yourself happy, and you need to be able to make yourself happy to make someone else happy, but you need to make that other person happy in life. You need to be supportive of them. And so just continue to work. Do not allow things to be routine. There's benefits to having a routine in your life, absolutely, but there needs to be some spontaneity in your marriage to keep that spark alive. So don't let that go. If we are kind and compassionate and supportive and with our spouses, if we are working to keep our marriages functional and happy and moving forward, if we can do that, everyone benefits. You benefit with a happier and longer life. And same with your spouse. Your children are much more likely to grow up to be happy, well-adjusted adults who will in turn do the same thing with their family and your grandchildren. And you'll see an improvement in generation after generation. Society will improve from what we see today. It could take 100 years for the change we make in our lives to make any considerable effect in our society, because it's degraded so much. But if we can just do this, everyone in our families, in our lives, will benefit. You, your wife, your children, your future grandchildren, everyone that they interact with and have relationships with, everyone benefits. And it all starts with you, men. It starts with you doing the right thing. Don't allow your impulses to control you, and be faithful and true. I hope you've watched this video to the end. I hope that you have enjoyed it and that you have learned from this video. And I will add that a lot of this that I spoke about comes from personal experience. Growing up in a broken home. So thank you for watching. Everybody have a great day. God is love.